Hey everybody, in this video training, I'm going to talk about the referral rebounder pathway, which includes the 7 touch point technique. It includes value in advance and winning through repetition. So again, I'm going to talk about the referral rebounder pathway. When a patient is discharged from your clinic, you've got to stay in touch with them. In fact, what we've found in our companies and in working with the thousands of private practice owners that we've worked with over the last several years is you've got to stay in touch with patients more than once. You've got to stay in touch with referral sources more than once. In fact, what we found is it takes anywhere between 6 and 10. We find 7 being more of an average. It takes about 7 touch points before you get the other individual, whether it's the patient to schedule or to refer or to take any other action, or whether it's the physician to send their first patient to you. It takes about 7 touch points for someone to take the desired action that you want them to take. Now, when you really think about it, this actually makes a lot of sense because everyone's so busy these days. People are busy with stuff going on in their lives. People sometimes don't check their email. People are too busy to check your message at that moment in time. Everyone is just so busy. It makes sense. That's why it takes about 7 touch points before you can start to ignite the referral rebounder pathway. Now again, the referral rebounder pathway is all about getting more referrals from your existing contacts. In fact, it's almost like throwing a boomerang and it kind of just comes right back to you. That's what a referral rebounder pathway is. You've already got some relationships with those individuals, with those patients. All you have to do now is build those relationships so that those individuals, those patients, those physicians can come back to you. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see private practice owners make is not following up with patients, not following up with physicians, just thinking that, oh, you know what, my core service, what I have to offer is so valuable, so awesome that everybody will just talk about me and referrals are going to happen. That doesn't happen these days. We live in a day and age where there's just so much information. In fact, most people today have more information on their phones than people used to have in their entire libraries in previous generations. There's so much information available on your phone that you could spend weeks, months, years trying to, go through websites on your phone. There's so much information. We're bombarded with information and it's hard for people to pay attention. The attention span of the average patient or the average physician is significantly lower than it used to be. In addition, there's a lot more competition that we face from other private practice owners. We face competition from larger hospitals, larger clinics who seem to have bigger budgets and who seem to have different philosophies and, dare I say, more money to reach patients than the average private practice owner does. So there are fundamental shifts in the market that have led to the reduced attention span of the average patient and a significantly lower attention span for physicians. That's exactly why you need to have several touch points, because just depending on your core service is not a good idea. You need to first of all attract individuals using prospect magnets, using all the other strategies we've talked about, and then you need to build relationships with patients. But more importantly, what you need to do is you need to be able to create essentially the foundation for referrals. So how do you create a foundation for referrals when individuals are so busy, when it's hard to actually get your marketing message across? Well, you create what I call value in advance. Now, what is value in advance? Value in advance is essentially providing something to a patient or providing something for a physician that lets them immediately see what you have to offer. Don't tell them, show them. Don't say it, convince them. Don't give them a website or a marketing brochure or a business card. Somehow demonstrate what you have to offer to them. So how do you create value in advance for a physician? First of all, what you can do is you can offer to treat one of the physician's patients and provide some sort of benefit, some sort of relief as quickly as possible. And now when this patient goes back and talks to the physician and says, gosh, I went to ABC Physical Therapy, my back was hurting, they did something, I'm not exactly sure what they did, but they worked on my back and now my back pain is gone. Something like that, the creation of value in advance. Let's say a patient calls you trying to schedule an appointment. Even before you've scheduled the appointment, even before the patient has walked in through the door, tell the patient, you know what, and by the way, this comes back to the prospect magnet, the prospect stimulator and the prospect magnets that we had talked about earlier. Tell the patient, you know what, just for calling us and just for thinking of us and considering us, because we know you have a lot of choices, we'd like to send you something in the mail. It's a little gift from us that's going to help you get better faster. All we need is your mailing address. Where can we ship it? All of that is the creation of value in advance. When you create value in advance, we human beings have a fundamental desire to exhibit some sort of reciprocity. In other words, if you do a favor for someone, they're not going to just sit back and say, all right, I'll see ya. They're going to want to reciprocate. They're going to want to thank you. They're going to feel indebted to you. So when you create value in advance, what you're doing is offering someone with a helping hand. You're going out with a helping hand, creating value in advance. You're offering something that not only speaks about your expertise, but clearly, definitively, concisely demonstrates your expertise. Now, I have to warn you, this takes a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of individuals who don't care for value in advance. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You talk to a physician, you use the physician interview principle, the physician profiling script that I've talked about in other trainings, but then you never get a response. It can get a little discouraging, but the fact is the right intentions, the right service, and the communication of the right intentions and the right service always wins in the long term. So when you're good about your intentions, when you're very specific about what you're offering, and when you're able to convey that to patients and physicians, whatever that might be, with value in advance, you're setting the stage, you're setting the foundation for a whole bunch of referrals, a whole bunch of goodwill coming back to you by way of referrals. That's the foundation. Value in advance is the foundation of the referral rebounder pathway. And finally, I've mentioned this earlier, you win through repetition. Don't do it a few times and then get discouraged if it doesn't work. As long as you believe it's the right thing to do, as long as you do it the right way, and as long as you're strategic about whom you're approaching. For example, if a physician says, you know what, just don't contact me. We seem to have we have another relationship with another provider that we're referring to. Then say, okay, that's okay, and move on. Don't spend any more time and energy when there's nothing to be had from your time and effort. So move on. You will win through repetition when you have at least 7 touch points, when you provide something that's definite, that's concrete, that is helpful, and when you demonstrate the value in advance and when you repeat it. Because that's when the individual on the other side says, you know what? These guys are different. They're better. They care. So therefore, I'm going to send them referrals. Therefore, I'm going to ask my family, my friends to visit them. When you demonstrate value, and like I said, we live in a world where there's so much overwhelm that individuals need to go out of their way. Individual providers like you now need to work harder. I would say you need to have a dedicated marketing person. You may even need to have clinicians in your practice. And if you're watching and you're the owner, if you're the biller or the front desk person, you need to set aside half an hour a day creating value in advance, communicating with patients, keeping track of the 7 touch points. Do that by way of an Excel sheet and continue to repeat. And that's how you create better value for your patients. That's how you build a more successful practice. And that's how we elevate our status. And that's how we essentially transform communities. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next training.